Yeah, it absolutely does, and it makes a lot of sense. The minerals are so important, and often really foundational to everything that's happening in the body. So it also makes sense that it is called the root
Mm.
cause protocol, because it
Right.
gets right to the actual root cause of the dysfunction in the system, really. Which
Yeah.
is also, we're able to see in live blood analysis often where issues are kind of stemming from. And a lot of practitioners struggle, working out where to focus. And, we often, uh, people often end up working with symptoms rather than actual underlying causes. So it
Right.
really is extremely valuable to be able to get to the root cause of the problem, and then you can see all the downstream effects and benefits, when you start working at that level. But similar to, I guess, live blood analysis, the root cause protocol is also not really accepted yet in conventional medicine, and it also
Oh, no.
seems to challenge several of the standard and accepted nutritional recommendations. Could you perhaps comment on the rationale for this counter cultural type of stance?
Yeah, no, again, I didn't set out in my 50s to say, I'm going to spend the rest of my life challenging the entire medical establishment. In fact, one of my clients, he was in his 30s and he couldn't work. He had Lyme disease. And apparently he taught himself astrology. It's like, okay. And the conversation of our consult started with a very unusual question. He said, Morley, what's your birthday? I said, excuse me? He said, I want to just verify something that I suspect about your focus. I said, well, I'm a Scorpio. He said, I knew it. He said, I knew you were a Scorpio. I said, well, how did you know I was a Scorpio? He said, well, because only a Scorpio would dig the way you have into the literature to find out aspects of healing that no one's ever considered. He said, but only a true Scorpio would take on the entire medical establishment and not back down. And that's basically what I've done. I mean, the one position that I've, and probably, well, there's two that I know I would be particularly legendary for. One is telling people to stop taking vitamin D supplements. If you want vitamin D, go out in the sun or take cod liver oil, but don't take the supplement. And there's a long explanation for that. I'm just trying to introduce the subject matter. But the other is I, I'm absolutely convinced there's no such thing as anemia of iron deficiency on planet Earth. But yet the World Health Organization would tell you that a third of the Earth's population suffers from anemia. Well, there's many different forms of anemia, but there's absolute iron deficiency anemia and there's functional iron deficiency anemia. And if you don't know about the latter, the functional side, which requires what? Copper. If you don't have copper, you can't properly recycle the iron in the body. And how would it show up on the live blood analysis? The rouleau, the red blood cells will be stacked. You know you've got a copper problem when you see that. But I think, Dr. Okker, if I've done anything in my 17 years so far, is I've given people permission to question the status quo, to question the narrative, to question, is there another way to think about this particular set of symptoms that I've got? And I I made a pledge back in my 30s that I was going to live a life of integrity. Now I've made my fair share of mistakes. I hardly walk on water. I tease people and tell them that I wear waterproof shoes, but I really am quite um, invested in what does it take to have integrity, not just as a person, but as an organization, as a whole concept of healing. And I think that because the system lacks an understanding of minerals, lacks any understanding of how energy is made, it lacks integrity. And so I've taken upon myself to challenge the system, to say, you got to step up your game. You got to understand this from a completely different light and really challenge people to move beyond their training and get to the truth. Because I think that's where the breakdown is practitioners go through a very rigorous program of training, thinking that it is the truth. And what I've come to realize is that within certainly the world of conventional medicine, I won't speak about naturopathy or homeopathy or herbal medicine or whatever, but within conventional medicine, I don't know that they make errors of commission. I think there are errors of omission. They don't talk about copper or the minerals in general. They don't talk about the copper protein ceruloplasmin, which is the master antioxidant protein in our body. It brings literally sunshine inside our body. And so practitioners are essentially farmers that focus on photosynthesis, but they never talk about the sun. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. How can you heal someone if you don't understand how energy is made, if you don't understand how light is distributed in the body, if you don't know how enzymes are activated? And so we put particular stock in that. And we're very quick to challenge the conclusions that are drawn in practitioner training to say, let's break it down. Why does this happen? Here's an example. People are told that they're vitamin D deficient. People are told they're anemic. People are told they have high cholesterol. What's the one question no one ever asks? Why? Why is my vitamin D low? Why is my cholesterol high? And the answers are in the literature, but you have to dig for them. We know what the answers to those questions are. And invariably, it's actually quite interesting. The reason why someone has low vitamin D and high cholesterol is they have too much iron in their liver. Well, why do they have too much iron in their liver? Because they don't have enough copper in their diet. Well, why don't they have enough copper in their diet? Because the farming and the food processing system is completely stacked against the minerals. And so it's just bringing that kind of awareness and insight is very critical for a real deep understanding of how do we attain homeostasis in the human being. And it's laid out in the literature, but you got to stay with it to connect the dots. So hopefully that gives you and the listeners a little bit more to work with.